Hello and welcome to the Peatlands. In this video you will see which equipment is needed for soil surveys in peatlands. This means digging a shallow pit, identifying and describing the horizons, and coring for deeper soil layers. Let's start with a shallow pit. For the ideal work conditions we will need the following materials. A tarp for storing the sods and excavated peat. A spade for preparing the shallow pit and soil monolith. The spade should be sharp and it is important that it has a straight handle because it needs to be pushed vertically into the soil. A shovel for digging up the peat. Large bread knives and kitchen knives to cut out the soil monolith. A hard board and a rollable pad to create a background for photographing the monolith. A folding ruler to measure the depth of the horizons. A measuring tape for the profile wall and monolith photos. 2 small wooden blocks approximately 10 cm high, a narrow plank and 2 clothespins for attaching the measuring tape at the correct height, or a leveling staff or large ruler which you can lay directly on the wooden blocks for the monolith photos as an alternative to the measuring tape. Additionally, a large parasol is quite handy, either for rainy weather or to create shade for the profile and the monolith. Shade can greatly improve photos because direct sunlight creates strong contrasts. You also need tools for the drop shatter test and for aggregate size sorting. For instance, a rectangular marking on a solid base. We marked a rectangle with the dimensions 55 by 35 cm on a blue plastic bag and used a light wooden board with the dimension 60 by 40 cm as a base. For the drop shatter test, a solid container will of course be needed. In order to examine deeper horizons, you need a suitable coring device. You can use a Russian peat borer with the accompanying extension rods. As an alternative to the Russian peat borer, you can also use a wide gouge auger. The extension rods have a bayonet mount, so they are compatible with both the Russian peat borer and the gouge auger. And let's not forget that we will need a bucket and a cloth so the hands can be kept clean for the Von Post squeeze test. The bucket can also be used to remove water from the soil pit if the soil is very wet. What you will definitely need is a camera for the photo documentation. In peatlands it is often very wet, and when working in the field you will always get your hands dirty. Therefore, a waterproof camera with a good resolution and no retractable lens is ideal. Retractable lenses and focus rings are the first parts to break when a camera is exposed to mud and dust. Not only cameras suffer from working in wet and muddy conditions, but also the knees of the peatland scientist. Therefore, it is a good idea to bring a folding stool and an impermeable mat for kneeling. Here is a comprehensive list of the shown equipment and materials for the shallow pit, the drop shatter test and aggregate size sorting, for coring, and for the Von Post squeeze test. Also, here is a list of the general equipment needed. This is the complete list. Everyone can decide for themselves which equipment and materials do the best job. Be creative. Especially if you are working alone, you need to decide what is really necessary to bring for the day. If you are working with someone, you will have more support. Ideally, that is. Have fun in the field.